Hello, welcome to today's webinar on MyEclipse 2015. We're really pleased to have great attendance at this webinar introducing all the exciting new things in the MyEclipse 2015 release. As we go through the webinar, you can go ahead and put questions in the questions area over to the right. But I'm really pleased to bring you an outstanding group of experts here in the background that can answer your questions, but more importantly, actually giving today's demo. So with us today, we have Brian Fernandes. He is the product manager for MyEclipse. He's been with Genuitech over 10 years, knows everything from the ins and outs to all the cool ways you can use our products. And working with him, we have Vatsan. He is our QA manager, been with Genuitech for over 8 years. And lately, you might have seen Vatsan beginning to put out posts on our blog as well. He really is a passionate believer in the value MyEclipse brings, and will be taking us through some of the interesting demos of the new features in MyEclipse 2015. So Brian, why don't I pass it over to you for a brief introduction to what we're going to cover today.
Tim, thanks very much. So in today's webinar, I'll be giving you a brief introduction to Genuitech. We'll cover some MyEclipse fundamentals before going on to features that are specific to MyEclipse 2015. I'll also talk about how MyEclipse can save you money before ending this webinar with some questions. All right, so Genuitech was founded in 1997, and our first major release, MyEclipse, was in 2003. We're very proud of our product portfolio. Since then, we've released new products every couple of years, with the latest one being Gap Debug. This year, we'll be adding to the MyEclipse family that has grown in robustness and capability over the last couple of years, and we'll be releasing a few additional flavors of it. So where are we now? 16,000 companies and 70% of the Fortune 500 companies use our products. We are present in 200 countries, and let's move on now to MyEclipse. So MyEclipse supports a massive array of domains. So out of the box, it allows your developers to start developing without having to worry about getting their tools right. We are optimized for enterprise development, and we'll cover more of these in the coming slides. Obviously, MyEclipse is an Eclipse-based product and comprises the best of Eclipse in one IDE. MyEclipse features have been built in-house, but we also integrate third-party tooling from Eclipse and other vendors. These integrations are often enhanced significantly with fixes, improvements, and modifications to allow them to work seamlessly in MyEclipse. As I said earlier, we've supported a heck of a lot of enterprise features. Talk about Spring, Hibernate, JPA, JSF Web Services, right from JAX RPC to JAX RS, we've got you covered in MyEclipse. New flavors of MyEclipse this year. Now, so where are we right now? 16,000 companies and 70% of the Fortune 500 companies use MyEclipse products, use Genuitech products. You know, we're present in over 200 companies. We're present in nearly 200 countries right now. I'm sorry, there appears to be a little bit of a lag, so just bear with me as we get those sorted out. I'll just move on to the MyEclipse portion of our webinar right now. So MyEclipse supports, massive array of domains out of the box. It allows your developers to start developing without having to worry about getting their tools right. We are optimized for enterprise development, and I'm going to cover a few more of that, going to talk a little bit more on that in the coming slides. Now, obviously, MyEclipse is an Eclipse-based product and comprises the best of Eclipse in one IDE. MyEclipse features have been built in-house, but we also integrate third-party tooling from Eclipse and other vendors. And these integrations are often enhanced significantly with fixes, improvements, and modifications that allow them to work seamlessly with MyEclipse. Now, as I said earlier, we support a heck of a lot of enterprise features. Talk about Spring, Hibernate, JPA, JSF Web Services. Right from JAX RPC to JAX RS, we've got you covered in MyEclipse. Over the last couple of years, we've added support for development of hybrid mobile apps. So 2015 includes PhoneGap support, for instance. And it's easy to tie your enterprise backends to mobile frontends with MyEclipse. Our secure offering, MyEclipse Secure, allows you to easily configure, distribute, and use MyEclipse across teams. On the Maven front, we have superb Maven integration with the ability to import pure Maven projects and the IDE will detect the capabilities your project is using and configure your projects accordingly. You don't need to run additional configuration steps, figure out what frameworks you've got to enable in MyEclipse. MyEclipse will do that automatically based on the contents of your form.xml. Our Spring scaffolding features allow you to generate entire CRUD applications starting from a database or just entities. It'll generate applications using JSF or even GWT. And finally, with mobile, we've got the best PhoneGap build tools in the market, allowing you to build Android and iOS apps locally or remotely across Windows, Linux, and OS X. On the server front, we support over dozens of servers, over 16 different server families. We support basic servers like Tomcat to some that are more capable like Glassfish and Wildfly. And of course, we've got special support for the WebSphere family of servers. We support the WebSphere application servers, the portal servers, and even the Liberty profile. On the JavaScript front, we've been focusing heavily on the web. We've got the best JavaScript code assist in the Eclipse space right now with our Turn integration. We also have inbuilt support for a large set of JavaScript frameworks, like from simple things like jQuery, simple essentials like jQuery, I should say, to powerful frameworks like AngularJS. Now, we're very proud of how well our software is respected in the industry. Steve Bromley at Enterprise Rent-A-Car says, MyEclipse provides the best single source solution for the missing pieces in Eclipse. And they've been our customers for over 10 years now. This summarizes MyEclipse very well. It is indeed a complete stack. If you try to build one yourself, you're going to have missing pieces or features that don't work very well with each other. And you're going to spend a lot of time getting something that works right, that works well, and that works consistently across your team. Okay, so let's dive into the cool bits in 2015 specifically. So with 2015, we've introduced the CI stream. So we've had 10 CI releases on this stream so far. So what is the CI stream? While stable, the CI stream allows you to start using key capabilities in MyEclipse sooner, as soon as they provide useful features, while not necessarily being polished or complete. Fixes to issues found internally and by our users are available in a few weeks as opposed to having to wait months on the stable stream. Also, user feedback helps drive feature direction from an early stage during feature development. As a result, you get the tools that you need to get your products to market sooner. So the next CI release is CI 11, and that's due to come out next week. And we got many more CI releases planned. Now, with 2015, we've included custom integration of Turn.js, and this makes our JavaScript support much better. How? Turn's type inferencing engine is much better than what we had with Eclipse's JSDT solution. And as a result, Content Assist is much more robust, more correct, and more reliable. We've also got inbuilt support for several JavaScript utilities. You're going to see some of that in the demo, notably, AngularJS support, and of course, the essentials like jQuery, Dojo, Node, etc. On the REST front, our previous REST Explorer, if you've used MyEclipse before, it's like a browser-based application that only works on Windows 32 and Linux. That's what it was. In 2015, we've completely rewritten it from scratch, and it works everywhere. It even has authentication support, and that will allow you to explore services that need OAuth 1 or OAuth 2 authentication. We even support the exploration of a few public APIs with MyEclipse, like Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Again, we're going to demonstrate that, and we're just adding to the number of services supported by MyEclipse. On the usability front, if you have a ton of REST endpoints in your project, navigating through your project is going to be a hassle. So the REST Project Explorer gives you a quick hierarchical overview of the endpoints in your project. It allows you to quickly navigate between them easily. I think I've spoken enough, and next up, we'll have Vatsan giving us a quick demo of these features. Vatsan, over to you.
Thank you, Brian. Let's have a look at features Brian just mentioned. What I have here is a very basic AngularJS application. And before we dive into the code and see what the application does, let's take a quick look at the preview. You can see that as I keep changing the name, the model changes are automatically picked up by AngularJS. I will now demonstrate the MyEclipse tooling that supports AngularJS and JavaScript development. First, I'll show you the Angular Explorer view that provides an overview of all the Angular specific elements in your project. From here, it's easy to open the controller by simply double-clicking. You can also open the directives, and so it provides an overview of all the AngularJS elements and helps with easy navigation. Now, MyEclipse has a very robust content assist support for JavaScript, and that includes AngularJS as well. Now, as you can see, we have content assist proposals for methods along with their documentation. For this demo, let's add a sample controller. Let's call it. Let's call it test. And I'm going to copy and paste the implementation from the previous controller into this. And let's just modify the last name to something different. I'll save this file and let's open the HTML file. And you can see that the source tab of the HTML file has content assist support for all the HTML elements as well as the AngularJS elements. You can see that all the AngularJS elements are listed in the proposal along with their documentation. We also have content assist support for controllers, applications, and if I place my cursor here and invoke content assist, you will see the new controller that we just added. So let's double click to use that. If you go back to the preview, you can now see that the last name is now provided by the new controller that we just wrote. MyEclipse also supports validation of AngularJS elements. Like if I provide a wrong controller name, MyEclipse immediately validates the file and reports that as an error. And once I correct the error, the error no longer exists. This is applicable for app names as well. So, so the error is gone once you provide the correct name. Next, I will show how to add jQuery support to your JavaScript project. Normally, if you type $ and invoke content assist, you will see some jQuery related proposals. In this case, we don't see them since we haven't really set up the project for jQuery. But it's quite simple in MyEclipse. You can right click on the project, choose MyEclipse, JavaScript modules, and you can select jQuery from here. And you'll see the message that jQuery is installed. You can also do this through the project properties JavaScript resources page, where we also support a number of other popular JavaScript frameworks. So you can see that since we added jQuery, it's already selected. So let's OK this, and let's go back to the editor and invoke content assist. And now you'll see jQuery proposals along with their documentation. So I'm sure that you will love our latest improvements to JavaScript and our AngularJS support. Next, I will demonstrate the new REST Explorer features. With MyEclipse 2015, we ship bundles for some of the popular social services by default, like Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And we also plan to include some more features, some more services in the future. For this demo, I will show LinkedIn. Let's double click to open that. And this is our new REST Explorer that Brian discussed. And you can see it lists all the methods from the LinkedIn web service. For this demo, let's do a quick company search. Let's select that and test method. So I'm going to enter Genutech and press execute. LinkedIn requires authentication, and so let's go ahead and authenticate. So I'm scrolling down, and I'm going to let's click allow access and finish. And once authentication is complete, you will see the response rendered in browser here. In this case, the response rendered is in XML format, but MyEclipse also supports response rendering in JSON format. We can also modify our search query and use a different keyword. And in this case, we don't have to authenticate again since we've already authenticated. And here you'll see the response depending on the search query. We also have a really nice hierarchical REST content node for your project, where all the REST methods of the project are listed like this. In this project, I have a single class that contains all the REST methods, but you can also double click and open and display REST methods from different classes. If some methods share part of the path, they are grouped and clearly distinguishable from each other. So you no longer need to browse through 1,000 lines of code to find a method that you need to modify. Just double clicking here will directly take you to the method in the editor. And that would be all for this part of the demo, and I will hand it over to Brian.
All right, Vatsan. Thank you very much for that quick demo. Just to recap, what Vatsan demonstrated was great Angular support for several JavaScript frameworks with robust content assist. You got advanced cross-platform REST Explorer with authentication support, and the REST Project Explorer. There is also the REST Project Explorer view. We didn't really demonstrate that, but you did see the REST node in the MyEclipse Explorer, and that allows really quick navigation between your REST endpoints. Let's move on now to some of the mobile features in 2015. So as I said earlier, with 2015, you can build hybrid mobile applications for both iOS and Android. And you can build them either locally or remotely with Adobe's PhoneGap build service. We have a detailed PhoneGap configuration editor that helps you set up icons, splash screens, permissions, and the like. And we also include a simulator. You can use that to easily test your apps before you build native binaries. Let's jump back to Vatsan, who's going to give us a quick demo over our PhoneGap features. Vatsan, over to you.
Okay, so for the PhoneGap demo, we have a very simple PhoneGap application with AngularJS front end. Before we dive into the code, let's see how this project runs in our mobile web simulator. To do that, right-click on the project and choose PhoneGap and preview application. Let's choose an Android preview. Seems taking time. Okay, and the simulator should launch in just a few seconds. And there it is, and this is our mobile web simulator, and you can see our application running in the simulator. This application contains, makes use of some PhoneGap Cordova plugins. It uses plugins from Cordova to display some information like device or the location, or simulate some platform behavior like vibrate. The simulator also supports other platform events like orientation and zooming. Like if you want to have an horizontal display, you can just click here, and if you want to go back to default, you can also select this. There are other options like geolocation, accelerometer, and even battery status. So I will close this simulator, and let's go back to the code. I'm going to show the PhoneGap configuration editor. This is a very nice user-friendly editor that allows you to configure all the PhoneGap configuration elements of your project. For example, icons, splash screens, preferences like PhoneGap version. You can even enable Android debugging. There are several Android permissions that you can set for your project. We also plan to support iOS permissions in the future. There is also a plugins node where you can see the project already contains 4 plugins from Cordova. You can also add plugins from here or from the context menu of the project using this wizard, the add plugin. You can also remove plugin using the remove plugin context menu. And what the add plugin wizard does is it once you select a plugin, it downloads and copies all the plugin files into the plugins folder of your project. You can choose any plugin from the Cordova repository or any custom Git repository. Once the plugins are copied to your project, they are available for local builds. Speaking of builds, MyEclipse has a really nice wizard to build your PhoneGap applications. It can be invoked from PhoneGap, build PhoneGap application, and you can see there are several options that you can configure and customize your build. You can see that the local iOS builds is not enabled on this operating system. It's enabled only on Mac operating systems, but the remote builds are available on all systems, since for remote builds, the build is actually taken care by the remote build server of PhoneGap. You might wonder what version of PhoneGap is supported in MyEclipse. And for that, let's open the PhoneGap runtimes preference page. You can see that we have a 3.6.3 runtime selected by default. This is the default runtime that is supported in MyEclipse. But you can also download and install any version of PhoneGap from the PhoneGap site and configure that as a runtime in MyEclipse using the add PhoneGap runtime wizard. You just need to provide a name and the location of the runtime, and then you can configure that as a runtime. To summarize, MyEclipse is compatible with all versions of PhoneGap starting from 3.3.0. With that, I will pass it over to Brian.
Thanks very much, Vatsan. Okay, just a quick recap on what Vatsan demonstrated for us. He showed you how to use the easy-to-use mobile simulator. We've got a detailed form-based configuration editor, and the ability to build PhoneGap applications either locally or remotely, and you can, and the support that we've got for multiple PhoneGap versions. So we're not limited to the PhoneGap versions that we ship with MyEclipse. You can always just download something and configure that and get going immediately. All right, continuing on with usability. So in MyEclipse 2015, usability was a big focus for us. We know that MyEclipse being so massive, it can be overwhelming to some users. So we've got a dashboard in 2015 that allows you to quickly get started in areas you want to work in. So there's a quick list of essential wizards and corresponding documentation. Examples have also been updated, and we've got interesting metrics that will actually show you what projects you've been working on or how much time you spend coding. Of course, we've got integrated support for version control systems like Git and CVS, and those are big parts of MyEclipse as well. The project-centric MyEclipse Explorer, you already saw Vatsan using some of that in the REST demo. That allows you to easily search for matching file names or even file contents, and you can actually see a screenshot of the MyEclipse Explorer, and that's in our new dark theme that we've introduced with 2015. We also have a dependencies-only Maven mode, and that allows you to leverage the power of Maven more for its dependency management solutions without having to deal with, without having to bother with advanced Maven configuration. Finally, our server framework, it has been rewritten from the ground up to be based on the Web Tools framework. So now third-party server connectors work seamlessly with MyEclipse. There's also finer-grained reporting of server and deployment states, and you can also deploy several projects simultaneously. Now, I've got a final item there called unification, and if you've been using MyEclipse for some time, usually we have several flavors of it. There's MyEclipse Professional, MyEclipse Blue, Spring, and MyEclipse Bling as well. So with 2015, there is a single product and a single installer that pretty much installs everything that the MyEclipse product line has to offer. Features are enabled based on your license level, and you can even try features that are traditionally offered by some of the other products, like something that was offered by Blue is now available to you in your regular MyEclipse install with 2015, and you can try that out for a limited amount of time without having to contact our sales team for an evaluation license or having to buy one. You can try it for some time before making your decision and actually trying some of the features at higher MyEclipse levels. So let's go over to Vatsan one last time, and he take us through a few of the usability features. Vatsan, over.
Thanks, Brian. Let's see the usability improvements in action. I'll first start with the dashboard. So it provides you with a quick way to get started and to find some interesting documentation and examples on the technology that you want to use. On the general section, you have a number of links that help you create a project of your choice easily. Or you can also import existing projects from a source control management or from a Git repository. There are also some documentation links here that are related to project creation or that help you get started with MyEclipse. In the Learning Center, we have all the tutorials and documentation on the technology of your interest. It also has a recently updated section where you can see what our documentation team has been working on recently and get up to date on the latest technologies. There is also a filter here, which you can use to filter and open the technology of your choice. On the example section, we have a number of examples across different technologies and frameworks that you can easily install into the workspace and get started with a particular framework or technology. And the last page, we show some interesting metrics like the amount of time that you have spent coding, the number of projects that you have worked, the top projects that you have edited, and the top technologies that you have used, or the number of deployments you have made to a particular server. Moving on, as Brian mentioned, we are very pleased to introduce the MyEclipse Explorer in MyEclipse 2015. The MyEclipse Explorer has a quick filter using which you can search for files in the workspace. There is a files name search mode that will list all the files depending on your search query. There is also a file content search mode, which you can use to search for specific text in a project or in the workspace. The search is also customizable. You can use case-sensitive search, or you can use regular expressions. The MyEclipse Explorer also provides technology-centric exploration of your projects. Like for web projects, you have a deployment descriptor node, JavaScript resources that will show all the JavaScript resources of the project. In a Spring project, you will have a Spring Beans node that contains all the Spring Beans, like this. You will also have JPA content that will list all the JPA entities of the project. There is also a REST content node that we discussed earlier that will list all the REST methods and JAXB classes and many more. Next, I will demonstrate some of the usability improvements in the server space. If you launch MyEclipse 2015, you will see MyEclipse Tomcat 7 configured there by default and ready to use. We now have a very user-friendly server config editor, which you can use and customize your server settings for deployment. This is also available in some of the other editors like the external Tomcat server. And it's also easy to deploy several projects to a server with a single click. As you can see, there are several projects here. I can add all the projects at once using this button. And I can also easily change the deployment mode like this here. And if I want to remove a specific project, I can remove the project. Or if I want to add it back, I can just use this to add the project back. And for the last section of the demo, I would like to demonstrate the Maven dependencies only mode. To get started, let's create a web project. And I'll call it Maven dependency test and finish. To enable the facet, you can choose project facets and select install Maven support dependencies only, or you can also open the project facets property page and select the support here. Now what this does is support for Maven in MyEclipse has been significantly improved over the past few releases, and Eclipse project configuration is synchronized with POM XML really well. However, if we want to use Maven only for dependency management, not as a build solution, or if you want to have full control over how Eclipse project is configured, automatic configuration becomes a problem. And we have addressed that problem with the help of the dependencies only mode based on some feedback from our users. And what this does is, it once the support is added, it creates a pom.xml file in the project, and if you add a dependency, through the pom.xml, let me add 2.2.3.1, and once I save my changes, you can see that I'll have another dependency since let's add 2.2.1 and save it. And you can see that the dependency is downloaded, and now you'll see a Maven dependencies container automatically added to the project, and all the dependencies that are related to struts2 core has been downloaded and set up in the project. And that concludes the webinar part of the demo, and I will now hand it over to Brian.
Thanks, Vatsan. I think what you meant was that concludes the demo part of the webinar. But all right, so again, a quick recap over what Vatsan showed you. You got to see the handy dashboard. You got to see the MyEclipse Explorer's search and navigation capabilities, the upgraded server and deployment framework, and the Maven dependencies only mode. I just like to stress the Maven dependencies only mode. It's like usually the advanced features in Maven, are a little complicated. You've got to move to a full Maven configuration when working with Maven projects, when all you want is just dependency support. With the dependency only mode, you just get the dependency goodness that Maven typically provides without having to worry about moving to a complete Maven configuration, which can often be very complicated. All right, so let's move to how MyEclipse can save you money. When you think about using an IDE in your organization, there are two types of costs. The hard costs, what you pay up front, they're obvious. And MyEclipse is an extremely affordable IDE, especially when it comes, when you compare it to something like RAD. In addition, we make it easier for you to monitor your license usage, so you purchase the right number of seats for your company. The costs that are hard to calculate are the soft costs. The time spent by your developers finding the right components, getting them to work well together. You're going to lose developer productivity trying to keep your team in sync. With MyEclipse, you don't have these concerns. The tools you need are already part of the IDE, and they work in harmony. Changes and customizations, can be rolled out to everyone at the same time. Now, whether you're coming to MyEclipse from the Web Tools platform or from RAD, or maybe even coming to MyEclipse from command line Maven, the MyEclipse migration wizards will help you get your project running with MyEclipse in just a few steps. So RAD projects, for instance, can continue to be used in RAD even post-migration. Use them in MyEclipse and RAD back and forth, not a problem. The fact that we support several different server families, and several versions across this family, you can see that huge list of servers over there, within the same IDE makes it easy for you to migrate between servers or between different versions of the same server. Now, as I said earlier, we have releases on the CI stream every few weeks, bringing you fixes much sooner. We keep up to date with Eclipse releases, so MyEclipse remains compatible with the latest third-party plugins. And being a commercial IDE, we can schedule calls with our core dev teams to sort through issues you may be facing, or even help you migrate. We can also develop custom features based on your team's specific needs. All right, so wrapping up our webinar, MyEclipse allows your developers to start working on your project across dozens of domains immediately, as opposed to wasting time getting your development environment set up. With MyEclipse, the IDE configuration is completely under your control. You can add and remove components from MyEclipse or third-party vendors, and you can send notifications to developers, snapshot versions, and of course seamlessly roll out updates to keep everyone in sync. So that's about it. I hope you enjoyed our presentations and quick demos. What we move on to now is our Q&A session. So let me just look at the questions that have been asked so far. The first question coming in is, does MyEclipse include support for Gradle? So we don't include Gradle tooling with MyEclipse out of the box, but you can easily install it from the Gradle tooling update site. I think that's maintained by the Spring Tool Suite, as part of the Spring Tool Suite. Just add the update site to MyEclipse, and the products will install within MyEclipse without a problem. This is part of what I was saying. We integrate the latest version of Eclipse. We integrate the latest version of third-party tooling like Spring Tool Suite, ensuring that when you add something like Gradle to MyEclipse, it is compatible and you're not faced with issues that ask you to upgrade your base installation. If we do receive more requests for our Gradle support, we will take a look at making it much easier. It's already pretty straightforward, but we could make it easier if we receive more requests for Gradle support. Second question, does upgrading to 2015 change my development using Tomcat? So the answer to that is not by default. It's the same Tomcat you've always been using, but you can switch to the new context deployment mode. So Tomcat in 2015 is more configurable. Vatsan in demo showed you the advanced configuration editor. It has finer grained reporting. And in addition, you can also store Tomcat configurations in your repositories. So you can share that same configuration across members of your team with that configuration as part of your dev workspace. And finally, this is something you could never do in earlier versions of MyEclipse. You have multiple installations of the same version of Tomcat. You can easily configure that with MyEclipse. Next question, if I want to try MyEclipse 2015, do I have to stop using 2014? No, you don't. You can use MyEclipse 2015 simultaneously with other versions of MyEclipse. So you can use 2014 and 2015 on the same machine, even at the same time. That goes for other versions of MyEclipse, like 2013 and MyEclipse 10 as well. Last question so far is, what newer technologies are you going to be adding for JavaScript and related areas? So that's a very good question. Our support for JavaScript that we demoed here and AngularJS, for instance, is only the beginning. We are, like CI 11, for instance, will include some Ionic support. Then we are very excited about adding support for modern web frameworks and tools. So we'd be looking at things like Bower, Grunt, dev-side tooling like Emmet, and also looking at an improved JavaScript debugging experience in MyEclipse. Right, I'm just checking for additional questions. None seem to have come up, so over to you, Tim.
Great, thank you, Brian. And thank you to Vatsan as well for giving us a very informative update of MyEclipse 2015. I know those live demos are really interesting to watch, how easy and all the new improvements in MyEclipse 2015. We will be going ahead and sharing a recording of this webinar over our YouTube channel, and I encourage everyone on the call to go ahead and follow us at Twitter at Genuitech or at MyEclipse IDE. Certainly, we are enjoying more socialization there. You may have noticed lately we're doing quite a bit more on the on Twitter chats and things like that. So we have had bi-weekly Twitter chats where you can ask questions live as well. And so we look forward to your continued support of Genuitech software.